One thing that I hate about greasy grace is how it steals freedom from the bride of Christ. It steals freedom from people that are following Jesus, that just came into the house of God, that just came into the family of Christ, and they're believing for this new life, for being transformed, for being a new person. And now this greasy grace does what promises to be a beautiful blessing and give us this amazing, overabundant, life abundant, this glory-filled gospel that's just, you're never going to have a hard moment. You're never going to go through trials and adversity, tribulation. You're never going to have opposition in your life anymore. You're never going to experience hate anymore. You're never going to have a broken heart ever again. If you just come to Jesus, then you're just never going to suffer again. And the problem with this is that it's not biblical, it's not accurate, and it's not reality. In other words, it's not real. Greasy grace gives us this vehicle to stay stuck in the shackles of these daily sinful patterns because there's no accountability. In sanctification, there's no accountability. There's no walking alongside of in discipleship. The Bible promises us this abundant life, and it's a beautiful thing. It does promise this, but it's from a different angle. You see, greasy grace promises this abundant life from your external experience, but the true biblical doctrine of salvation and freedom according to Jesus and living with Him, it promises us a life abundant from the inside out. It promises us freedom from the inside. And when we experience this true freedom, which takes place inside, then it rents the shackles of our heart. It gives us the skin for the new wine. And then we begin watching this internal freedom pour out onto the pages of our daily and external experience. This is the true biblical doctrine of freedom. It's not greasy grace. It's not say a prayer and then live however you want. It's not go to church twice a week and then you're guaranteed to make it in. What this thing is a true relationship. It's walking with Jesus daily. And that's what we're talking about in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 this week. We're talking about the wise and the foolish builder. We're talking about the fact that we need to understand that if we're truly Jesus's, that we're going to be walking with Him and walking according to the fact and the reality that He's here with us and that He's real right now. This is the good news of the gospel. So without further ado, welcome back to Love Note. We're so grateful to be here and to be a very small piece and supplement to your Jesus journey and story in the main course taking place at the local church that you're a proud member of, that you're planted at, and that you go to faithfully, not to be saved, but because you're saved. And so if you're ready, I'm ready. We're jumping right into Matthew 24. It says, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them. We talked yesterday about the hearing is supernatural. The fact that we can even hear the voice of God. This is supernatural. I remember this happened to the prophet Samuel. The first time he's being raised up by his pastor, prophet Eli, and he's laying in his bed at night. And he hears what he thinks is his pastor calling him in there. And so he runs in there and he's like, here I am, here I am. He's like, what are you doing, man? Go back to bed. I didn't call you. Go back to bed. Does this 3 times. And what Eli realizes is he's finally starting to hear the voice of God. He's starting to finally hear the sayings of God. And this is the blessing. This is a supernatural wonder of being a child of God, because only the children hear the Father speaking. Come on, somebody, put that in the chat. And so what he's saying here is once we understand the value of hearing, now we're going to be doing this thing called doing. It's called works, not works to be saved. It's works because I'm saved. And so he says, then I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And so that's what we want to talk about today. This wisdom, this wise man, this is for you and I. It's talking about mankind, not gender. This is speaking of those that are following Jesus, and they're following Him because they're hearing His voice. So that speaks to being His children. And then 2, they're being obedient to His voice. They're doing the will of the Father. The same thing that we're seeing in this context in Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 21. He's saying, just because you say Jesus, you're not saved. This is how you know that you're following Jesus. And so what He's doing is He's showing us that there's a life or a house being built inside of this vehicle called sanctification. There is a lifestyle of Christianity that God is building on a daily basis with His presence, with His potent nearness, with Him being right there with us in the thick of it, the fourth man in the fire. Come on, the fourth man in the fire. We're no longer alone. You're not alone in that pit. There's a fourth one with you with the fire in his eyes. And what he's saying is these people, they understand that there's a community that they've been called to. There's a God people that He has called you to be planted in and to be a member of and to walk through life with. That way you're not isolated and all alone anymore. The enemy knows that if he can separate the weak one from the pack, that he can come after him. And that's why Jesus is famous and known for leaving the 99 to go after the one. Because it's the weak one that's getting separated, that's being made to believe that God's appointed them to live alone. And I'm just never going to have healthy relationships. I'm just never going to be married. I'm just never going to experience what it's like to be a father, what it's like to be a mother. These are all lies. These are not truths that God has ordained for us. He's ordained a community and a people of God for us to walk through the hallowed walls of life with. And so what he's doing here in this built on the rock passage, is Matthew 24 passage, 7:24, is that he's showing us what Jesus people really look like. True Jesus people. Have you found your people yet? That's what I want to ask you. Have you found your people yet? What we do is we find our people and we hang on to them. And this is a beautiful truth, because what he's saying is this one right here, I'm going to liken him to a wise man. So wisdom in motion looks like a person that understands that they need something bigger than themselves, and that something has a name. His name is Jesus. And when we find the man of Galilee with fire in his eyes, now we understand that he's ordained us to live in community, to live with people so that we can be growing. Iron sharpens iron. And as we're doing this, as we're heeding the voice of God, then we're actually building something. There's wisdom in motion going on. And wisdom in motion always looks like building. And know this as we land the plane and we'll get ready for tomorrow. But it shows us that every time that God speaks, something is built, something is created. He said, let there be light, and there was light. So the word of God always builds. So we're not even beginning to build unless we understand that we're His. We're hearing, and that's a gift, and we're putting these hearings or the words into doing, into motion. And as a result, God's saying, now you're in community, now you're walking with me, and now I'm going to call you wise. Until tomorrow, we're going to begin looking at what this wise builder looks like now that we understand that we are building something. And until then, on purpose, y'all go ahead and be blessed.